Hi, everyone. We will wait like 1 minute before we get started and then we'll dive right in. I really appreciate all of you joining us on a Monday night. Again, we will record this so that everyone has it available and accessible. We're going to be talking a lot about boundaries and keeping your boundaries during the holidays, as well as how to set that up. So we'll wait like 1 minute and then we'll just hop right in so we can get you guys out right at 8 o'clock. But for those of you that are here live, we're so happy to have you. And for anyone that's going to be watching this, hello, welcome. We are very excited to get started. And so I'm going to jump right in just so that we are on target and time with everything. And I have some slides I'm going to share. And uh-oh. Sorry, guys, 1 second. For some reason, it is not allowing me to share my desktop. So I'm just going to try and get that to work. Okay, so I'm going to try and log out and come back in and see if that works. Sorry, everyone. I want to be able to share these slides with you guys.
Hi, everyone. Just for anyone hopping on, Sam is having some technical difficulties and she is going to come back in a minute and try to share her screen. So just hang tight and thank you so much for being here. So excited to spend this hour together.
Okay, so hopefully that will work now. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we will get started. So again, thank you all for being here. So we're talking about boundaries along the fertility journey today and caring for yourself during the holiday season. So we're going to jump in. We're going to have Stuart hold some space for today with a mindful moment. We'll talk about boundary setting and ways that you might set boundaries, especially during the holidays. However, these can be used throughout. And then Stuart's going to take us on a journey, and that will take us to the end of our time. So I always like to just reiterate this idea of space and grace because we are spending a brief period of time talking about a lot of really important things. And so we want to be mindful of yourself and others. We want to hold space for everyone that is involved. We also want to have you validate yourself in this moment for any feelings that come up, positive or negative. We want everyone to allow yourself to just be in this moment and let yourself experience whatever might be coming up for you in this moment. That goes back to validating as well. We also want you to get comfy wherever that might be. So make sure you have space to sit in a comfy chair or be in comfy clothes or have a warm blanket wrapped around you, and give yourself privacy or a safe space as needed, whether that's alone or with others as you're listening to this. And we want to make sure you're practicing self-care and self-compassion throughout this journey with us. And again, I know we've spoken about this before. We know that topics we discuss in these womb healing circles can bring up a variety of feelings. So you may feel energized, you may feel fatigued, conflicted, hopeful, a combination of all of these things. And so we want to make sure you take care of yourself during this session as well as after. Again, this will be recorded and posted by Amy's team. You can journal or share any thoughts or feelings that come up with others as you go through this. You can get outside and connect in nature. I know Stuart says it's a lot to drink a lot of water, both during and after. engage in some deep breathing, and anything else that you might feel is a good form of your own personal self-care. So I'm going to turn it over to Stuart for a minute for this mindful moment, and then we will jump into boundaries.
Thank you all so much for being here. I think there's a little lag in my video, but we're just going to go with it. And if I could just invite you all to close your eyes for a minute, place a hand on your heart if it feels good for you, maybe one on your womb as well. Just closing down the eyes. And wherever you're sitting or lying down, just notice the weight of your body against the floor or the bed or the chair. And take a really deep breath in. And on the exhale, really let it out. Again, sighing it out on the exhale. Letting it all melt away. Anything on your mind, on your to-do list, any holiday shopping or planning or anything like that, just let it go for this moment. And really give yourself permission to be here in your body, anchoring in to this space, into the here and now. And one more deep breath in through your nose, letting it out through your mouth, letting it all melt away. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And I'll pass it back over to Sam.
Thank you so much. So we're going to hop right in to our discussion of boundaries. So I think it's really important first to highlight that healthy boundaries empower you to protect your right to own your own space, whatever that might be. And I think oftentimes when we think of boundaries in the holidays, there's a lot of shoulds. I should be doing this. I should be going here. I should be answering these questions. I should be letting people know what's going on. And I want you in this space today to shield yourself from any attitude or judgment you have towards yourself. I want to focus this conversation on not owing anyone any explanations or details about things that are personal to you. And that's during the holidays or any other point in your life. But I think it's especially important in the holidays when you might be interacting with people you haven't spoken to in a while, or you might be experiencing situations where more questions come up than usual. And any sort of negative thoughts we have towards ourselves or attitudes or judgments we feel others have, we want to just focus on having that sort of self-care barrier in certain ways and having really firm boundaries to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. So when I think of boundaries, there's a lot of different definitions, right? When we think of boundaries, that came from the idea of being in bounds or out of bounds. So if something's in bounds, right, it's kind of valid, out of bounds, not so much. And that was expanded to actually talk about personal boundaries. And so when we think of boundaries, my favorite definition is just openly communicating and asserting personal values as a way to preserve and protect against having them compromised or violated. And while that may feel like a strong word, when we think about times where our boundaries have been crossed, right, it has put us in some kind of compromising or negative position that makes us feel down or upset. And so there's a couple of aspects of boundaries, and I think it's helpful to break it down in this way as you start to think about, what are my boundaries? When I think about boundaries, the first thing I think about is, what are your values? We can't really set boundaries unless we know what our values are, because often boundaries are, again, setting up and asserting what our personal values are for our own well-being. The next part is asserting those boundaries. How are we letting other people know what our values are? And how are we figuring out, and you might do this with a partner or a family member, what boundaries you're willing to compromise on and other ones that are firm in the specific way you're feeling them. And then the third piece is honoring and defending. So how do you honor and defend your boundaries when others might try and say or do something that compromises these? And we'll talk about some strategies that you can use. We recognize that this is just a 1 hour brief introduction to this. And so you may have a lot of thoughts and feelings, I encourage you to reach out to Amy's team if you have questions for us about this, your own therapist, your support network, as you start to consider and maybe add on to thoughts you've already had around what your values and your boundaries are. So when we think about boundaries, what can you do beforehand? So before you're entering a situation like a holiday event or something else where your boundaries might be crossed. So first we want to set expectations. And this is for you and for other people in your life. If you have a romantic partner, if you have family members, but setting expectations for yourself. So knowing, okay, most likely this family member is going to ask me this question. Or in this situation, I know this person's going to be there. And often they talk about topics that feel particularly upsetting to me. So it's setting expectations for yourself of what are the types of events I'm going to, and what are the types of things that I know might bring up a certain type of feeling for me. Along with this is recognizing possibilities. What are the possibilities of various things that might happen at certain events? And so you might set expectations with a family member of, I can only stay at this for an hour or so. Or you might set up an expectation with your partner of, I know that after an hour or so, I'm going to feel a lot of different feelings and I'm going to need space to process them. Can we say that we're hungry and we need to leave? Or can we say we have to go to another event? So it's setting up expectations and recognizing possibilities. Additionally, think about setting up your team. And I like to call this a care team. You can call this whatever you want, but setting up some sort of team, whether this is your partner, whether this is a friend, whether this is a family member, your therapist, but setting up some sort of care team that communicates, that you can communicate your needs to. And in addition, you can listen to theirs. So this is a symbiotic relationship. So again, this goes back to setting up with your partner, okay, I need to leave an event at this time, or maybe this is an event I'll pass on because I want to be able to prepare for this other event. And maybe you might find that your partner says, actually, you know what, this event is particularly upsetting to me, or these feelings come up here when this person asks about this, and I don't really want to be around it. But it's being able to explicitly communicate your needs and listen to others to figure out what's going to be the best possible scenario for you, whether this is a holiday event or an event in the future. When we think about this, also talk through a plan on who and what you'll share. So if we're thinking about specifically questions regarding your fertility journey, parenting, anything that you find is going to be a difficult topic, you might have a conversation with your partner of who's going to take on what. Maybe there are certain generalized statements that the two of you might come up with, or maybe it may be that your partner says to you, when this person asks about this topic, it's really difficult for me to answer. And you say, I can take that on. However, when other people bring up this topic, I'm going to need you to hop in. So all of this I see as preventative. How do you start to prep beforehand to make sure that you're meeting your own values and setting those boundaries so you're able to have a good holiday while also feeling like you've set the boundary of what you are and aren't willing to tolerate, speak about, or share at various events. In line with that, I kind of jumped to this already, plan for who will take on what. So who's going to talk on various things. Then I also wanted to highlight that the language is powerful. And this is twofold, right? So language is powerful for those who are asking you questions and for you sharing things. I think it's important when and if you're comfortable to acknowledge the impact of words that other people use. If someone asks you a question, you might say, I'm really not comfortable speaking about that here. And if you're comfortable, you can say, I'm happy to have another time to discuss that. Or you might even say, when people ask questions like that, it brings up a lot of negative feelings for me. But I think it's important to acknowledge when you're comfortable, whether you feel like something is appropriate to say or not, because it's good for others to also learn. Now, no one is required to teach other people what to say. And in most cases, I'm sure I've had the thought of saying someone should just know not to say these things. But I think it's also important for your feelings to be known and heard. I also think your words are powerful as well, to be able to say to someone, I'm not comfortable speaking about this, and just leaving it at that really sets that clear and firm boundary for yourself. I also think another powerful way to set boundaries is practicing using we if you have a partner when discussing topics around your fertility journey and various decisions. I think oftentimes we can feel alone on this journey. And if you do have someone on this journey with you, often I think, especially for the person who is attempting to get pregnant, it can feel like that journey is single fold because questions are often geared toward you. And I've had a lot of clients say that those questions, like, what are you doing? How are you handling this? Can feel really dismissive of the experience that they're in this as a team. And so if this is something that fits for you, you might consider practicing the use of the phrase we when discussing these topics. So even if someone says you, responding with the phrase we and encouraging your partner to do this. All of these things are ways that we can start to recognize what might occur and start to think about, if I'm going to go to certain events and I do find these situations coming up, how do I kind of make myself more able to recognize these things ahead of time and set a precedent for what I want those boundaries to look like, and how do I want to engage with people rather than feeling put on the spot. Now, during events, it is really hard to set boundaries, and most of us aren't used to this. If we look back on our lives, most of us never got a course in school around boundaries. Our family members didn't really teach this to us. And I think boundary setting can often feel harsh or even non-relational. I know in my personal experience, when I started to set boundaries finally as an adult, I remember my family members would say, oh, you're being mean. And I would feel so bad about that because I would go back to my therapist and say, am I being mean when I say this? And she would say, no, you're just setting a boundary, but no one's actually used to that. Society has often made us feel like we're not entitled to set boundaries. And particularly in cases of females in society, we've often felt like we're not able to express our boundaries, or when we set them, there's like a negative undertone to it. When boundaries aren't negative, they're direct because they are very clear in what we're unwilling to compromise on. You are absolutely entitled to set boundaries. There is nothing wrong with setting a boundary. And the more we start to set boundaries, the more we ourselves learn it's okay to do so, and others learn it's okay to do so as well. When you're at an event, be clear on your own limit. So we'll talk about this a little bit more later in some like specific strategies you can use, but you might use some sort of temperature check for yourself. So on a 0 to 10 scale, if I'm starting to get at a 4 or 5, I need to either take a breather and leave the situation, or I need to make a polite exit because I know my limit is once I'm at a 7 or an 8, it's going to be really hard for me to calm down and enjoy an event. So it's figuring out what are your limits for yourself and how do you communicate those? Do you just recognize that for yourself and politely leave? Do you send a text message to your partner and say, okay, I'm at a 5. I think it's time we like slowly start to say goodbye to everyone. Be clear on your own limits around when you need space, as well as what topics you're willing and unwilling to discuss, and what types of situations you're okay with attending. So you may love attending a family dinner. However, attending a religious ceremony might feel like too much for you. Or you might be willing to attend a small family event, but a larger party, just not your thing right now. I want to make it really clear. People have to earn the right to access your intimate stories. And I think this is especially true on this journey that many of you are on right now, whether it's a positive journey, negative, or neutral. In any situation, people have to earn the right to access that. Asking out of the blue and putting you in a spot where you may not feel ready to share. We often feel like we're put on the spot. Maybe we should say something. You're absolutely entitled to say, I'm not comfortable speaking about that, or happy to chat about that in another time. These can also be short responses. Just like I'm saying, it can be a one-liner. You can also have the opportunity to just press pause and think about, maybe this actually is something I want to talk about, but at Christmas dinner around all these people, no, I don't really want to. There might be deep connections you make when you feel comfortable enough to share your intimate stories, and you might decide that that occurs in specific situations, and the one you're in that moment may just not be a fit. So you can always set aside another time if it feels good for you. And I think the other key at an event you're at when you're setting boundaries is trust. Trust is a key factor in whether or not a conversation is going to feel safe or healthy. And this is trust in that other person, but it's also trusting yourself, knowing in yourself whether A, this is a conversation you want to happen, and B, when and where it should actually take place after the fact or in that moment. But trusting yourself that whatever choice you make is one that you feel comfortable and positive in. I want to talk a little bit about avoidance, because often when we think about self-care, we often think about, okay, like I'm taking a bath, or I'm going to go get a manicure, or I'm going to do some journaling, or I'm going to go to therapy. Sometimes avoidance can actually be a form of self-care. And I think this is especially true when we're trying to consider whether we want to talk about a difficult topic for ourselves, and when we're managing a lot of heavy emotions during the holidays. And I look at avoidance as a form of self-care as a dialectic, right? And there's two sides. Avoidance can be healthy and in the service of self-care. And then avoidance can also be on that other side and take us out of alignment of what's most important to us. So an example of that, right? Avoidance can be healthy and in the service of self-care when we make a decision to not attend an event where we know there's going to be a lot of children, and that might feel triggering or overwhelming to us. So maybe at a church service for the holidays, or maybe there is a large work gathering. Now, I know that some of those things might be canceled right now with COVID. However, you might say to yourself, you know what? These larger events, I don't feel as comfortable going to right now because I feel like I might be more exposed to a lot of questions. In this case, avoidance is in the service of your self-care. I'm not ready to take that on right now. Now, when we think about taking it out of alignment of what's important to us, the example I can think of on the other end is determining whether or not to go to a close family dinner, because we might be wanting those close social relationships. And we also might know that there could be someone who asks us a question that's upsetting or inquires about an experience that can be painful to us. And so that dialectic is being able to acknowledge that an event is painful and accept that pain as part of that experience if it fits with other goals and self-care activities you have. So it's figuring out, is this in the service of my own self-care? Yes, I may feel pain when a certain topic is brought up, or if this other person is talking about children. However, my other self-care goals are close relationships with my family and friends, and that is something that I want when I go to this event. So again, it's that dialectic of avoidance can be self-care if it's truly in the service of that self-care. But if it takes us out of alignment, going back to those values or the focus on other goals and activities that we do want, it kind of lends itself out of that self-care field. So there's that dialectic to consider as you think about your plans for this holiday and beyond. All of this can be used beyond the holidays. Act in service of what's important to you. This is one active way of owning the impact of any negative experience or struggle that you might have. So again, we're focused on your values, choosing what's important to you, and then utilizing some coping strategies when difficult emotions or situations arise. Again, just to kind of close this loop, we want to differentiate between when avoidance is self-care and when you want to be at something, when it lends itself to your wants and goals, but you also recognize there might be complicated feelings as well. How do you decide if you need to set a boundary at an event, with others, with yourself? Couple of questions to ask yourself. And I do really like to use this temperature check in my body. You can find this online. You can also look up on YouTube or elsewhere, just doing a quick body scan, closing your eyes, scanning your body from head to toe and noticing, am I feeling tension? Am I feeling any pain? To me, those are all signs and symbols that a boundary needs to be set. So try and do an inventory of social events and family gatherings, whether it's the holidays or beyond, and look at which of those feel like fun engagements to look forward to. So it's going back to, is this in line with my goals and self-care, or is it not? Ask yourself how you feel. Do you feel nervous, uplifted, sad, energized, drained? When emotions come up, are you feeling good about yourself? So even if a difficult emotion comes up, do you still feel positive about yourself in that situation? Are you anxious after being with certain people? Is your body tense? That to me is an indicator boundaries need to be set around those individuals. What do you do for you? What are you doing to take time for yourself? And are you getting that in and setting a boundary for yourself of, I need to make more time for me? Are there any holiday traditions that you've dreamed of doing on your own, or traditions outside of the holiday? And starting to set those up with just yourself, or with yourself and your friends, or yourself and your partner. Creating new traditions that do fill your cup are one way of setting a boundary around your own wants and needs as well. And we're going to talk about some strategies that you can use in the moment at any event that can be helpful in reducing any negative emotions or difficult, challenging emotions that come up for you. Deep breathing is a great one. I think sometimes we forget that just taking a deep breath has so many emotional wellness benefits. And it's something you can do that you can do around others, taking a moment away. No one even really has to know that you're doing it. I think another one I didn't list on here is, again, temperature check. At what number on that scale do you feel like your emotions start to get a little bit heightened and then you know you need to take space? Checking in with yourself, again, body scan, seeing where you're feeling it in your body and rating that 0 to 10 can be really helpful in setting that boundary for yourself at an event. Many of you, I'm sure, have seen Amy's videos on tapping, EFT for tapping. I use tapping a lot in therapy, especially when I'm doing EMDR. You can often do tapping, and this goes down to bilateral stimulation exercises. Bilateral stimulation is the idea of calming that amygdala, that fear center, where all of those negative emotions, anxiety, fear, worry, sadness start to build up. What it means is we're essentially stimulating both sides of the brain at even paces in order to calm down our nervous system and calm down those areas of the brain, that sort of fear center, the amygdala, hippocampus, that often get activated in moments of stress. Easy way to do tapping. I like to do the butterfly. So you just cross your hands, lay them over your chest, and then back and forth. I like to do 5 sets of 20. While you're doing this, if you have a favorite scent, you can bring that in your bag and either spray it in front of you. I'll take a little spray bottle and mix a couple of drops of my favorite essential oil with water. Then it smells like I made someone's bathroom smell really great. Or I can go outside and do it, but spray it in front of you, tap 5 sets of 20. Also, if you prefer not to use a scent or you want something added, you can visualize something. So you can listen to a guided meditation as you do tapping. You can imagine yourself in a really calming scene, maybe in your dream vacation spot, someplace that you can sort of imagine yourself in that brings about calm and serenity. It's also important to have a pre and post event self-care plan. This is something you can do prior to and then use in the moment. So reminding yourself, okay, like after this event, I plan to go have my favorite meal, or I plan to go take a warm bath, or I plan to go have a FaceTime call with my best friend, or I'm going to listen to this guided meditation on the ride home. Beforehand, I'm going to do some tapping. I'm going to drink a lot of water. I'm going to listen to some of Amy's guided meditations. So again, it's what can I plan to sort of buffer, to sandwich in between difficult moments. Identify your support team so that you can use them in the moment. So knowing who you can turn to and say like, hey, I need to take a walk. They might want to join you on that. Identify your positive statements. Forgot the word positive here. What's your mantra going into this particular event? Focus on one, remind yourself of these positive thoughts. You can use some from these slides around the fact that people need to work to understand your intimate stories and hear them, that boundaries are allowed and you're allowed to say no to things that you don't feel comfortable saying yes to. And then bilateral stimulation we talked about. Last one is mindful savoring. This is a positive psychology exercise that I love. Mindful savoring is finding brief moments of something positive to focus on in the moment to negate negatives. So mindful savoring to be really like being your internal hype man of, man, like I made a real good cup of coffee this morning, or oh man, like I really made my bed so well this morning. It looks like it's at a 5-star hotel. At a holiday event, someone might ask you something and you set a boundary, but then you say, man, this is like the best salad I've ever had. Or I love how my partner just expressed gratitude towards me for something. Or I love that this other person cooked this beautiful meal for us. So it's that mindful savoring, that expressing gratitude, expressing positive thoughts around something you've done or something someone else has done in that moment, and focusing on that so that that rush of positivity flows through you in a difficult moment and helps kind of distract for a moment from something difficult as your body processes those sensations. So I'm going to turn it over to Stuart now. I will make sure everyone posts this so that you have these slides. And again, if you have questions about any of these strategies, please reach out to Amy's team and they can always direct any questions. But I really hope some of these strategies, albeit brief, are helpful to you during the holidays and beyond.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Sam. That was so powerful. So many gems in there and so much to come back to as we all navigate this holiday season, which can be challenging, let's be honest. And I just saw a question here in the Q&A box. So it says, Dee said, where will these recordings be shared later? I have a hard time finding previous recordings on Mighty Network. So Sam, if you wouldn't mind popping the answer in the chat box, that would be amazing.
Sure. I would say to reach out to Amy's team because I'm not exactly sure where they're posted since they post them, but I would say email that info and I'll post the email at the end so that they can let you know where to find them in Mighty Networks.
Perfect. So I just want to invite everyone to find a comfortable space and to, whether that's sitting up, lying down, whatever feels good for you. And while you do, I just want to share a quote that I was reminded of recently that's just, it's so good. And it's so, really encapsulates the holiday season, in my opinion, anyway. And it's a quote by Ram Dass that says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And as magical as this time of year can be, it can be incredibly triggering. But triggers are such a beautiful opportunity for growth and our evolution. And so looking at it through that lens of knowing that it can be challenging and also knowing that we are powerful enough and have everything we need within us to rise to meet these challenges as opportunities is just something that I was reminded of recently that really, really helped me. So I just wanted to share that. And so just another thing before we dive into the healing journey, a lot of times we think of boundaries as something external. At least for me, I used to think of boundaries as something that was more external. So our ego will say, okay, I need to set this boundary. And it can be sometimes through the lens of fear instead of love, which is the language that our soul speaks. And ultimately, the image that comes through for me is, if you're standing on a house, outside of a house, and you're on the porch, your ego is going to say, okay, let's build a fence. Now let's build a wall. Now let's build a moat, and a drawbridge. Let's really throw in all those layers of protection to protect us from, other people. But when we think of boundaries through the lens of the soul, it's actually this remembrance that energetic boundaries radiate from the inside out. It's not the other way around. You can have all the walls and the moat and the drawbridge and all the things through the lens of the ego. But what really shifts everything is setting these boundaries internally, which creates that shift and that ripple effect for your entire external environment to shift. So my intention with this soul journey today and this meditation is that you can come back to this as many times as you need it over the holiday season to and just in general in life, because let's be honest, triggers and opportunities for growth do not just happen this time of year, although it can be amplified and exacerbated, so to speak. But so please find a comfortable space. And I'm going to cut off my video for this part as we sink into this soul journey. So go ahead and take some really deep breaths in through your nose. And on the exhale through your mouth, let it all melt away. Making an audible sigh if that feels good for you. And just noticing how you feel in your body. Maybe you place a hand on your heart and another hand on your womb. Just tuning in to where you're holding any tension. Letting your shoulders melt away from your ears. Unclenching your jaw. Feeling your feet against the earth. If you're lying down, just notice the weight of your spine against the bed or the floor. Just observing without judgment anything you're feeling. And when you're ready, bring your awareness to your heart space. And imagine the center of your heart opening petal by petal until a beautiful flower blooms. Noticing any colors or images that come through for you. And from this flower, beautiful roots travel down the base of your spine, down your legs, through the bottom of your feet, traveling deep into Mother Earth. And you feel your energy being drawn down, 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 grounding your energy deeply. And you keep going until you reach the core of the earth, where you see a beautiful crystal. Just noticing any colors or knowings or feelings that come through. And you wrap your roots around this crystal. And you bring this energy from the core of the earth, this grounding energy of pure love and light, back through the roots, through the earth's core, through the bottom of your feet, up your legs and your spine, until it comes back to your heart space. And this flower in your heart space opens even wider. And from your heart, a beautiful cord travels up your neck, through your crown, as you feel your consciousness expanding outwards, out of the room that you're in, out of the city that you're in, out of the country that you're in. Keep going farther and farther until you reach the highest realms of light and love. And you feel that pure source energy wrap around you. allowing yourself to feel a wave of peace, love, joy, and gratitude wash over every cell of your being, cleansing your energetic field of anything not in the highest vibration of love and light. You can feel this melting away from your physical body, from your mind, from your energetic field on all levels. And you see a beautiful, bright white light in front of you. This is the energy of pure, unconditional love. And when you're ready, you bring this energy down through the cord, back into your body, and you feel it melting everything away down your face like a waterfall, back into your heart space. And when you're ready, I'm going to count down from 5 to 1, and you're going to travel through the portal of your heart, entering into a sacred ceremony with your soul. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, allowing your eyes to roll back as you sink more deeply into your heart space. Allowing yourself to travel to your first destination, to the place where you feel safest in the world. Maybe it's somewhere you've recognized, maybe it's somewhere new. Just observing it, not trying to figure it out. And when you arrive, just notice what you see and feel, what you know to be true, anything you might hear. Feeling your feet beneath the earth. Downloading this energy of safety into every cell of your being. Knowing how held, loved, and supported you are in this moment and every moment. And when you're ready, you find a spot on the earth and you sit down or you lie down. And you allow yourself to be fully held by Mother Earth. Letting go of any of your worries, anything on your heart that's been heavy. And just noticing where in your physical body you're carrying this energy. Placing a hand on your womb and just asking her what she'd like you to know. Allowing yourself to receive the wisdom as the observer. Bringing your awareness back to your physical body. Just noticing where you're carrying anything, any tension that's not serving your highest good and the highest good of all. And in this moment, with a deep breath in, you take a deep breath out, exhaling, letting it all melt away. And all around you, the wind blows, and you find yourself in a storm. And all around you, the wind is blowing, things are moving. It's almost like a tornado is around you, and you're in the center. Just noticing anything that's coming up for you. And as you take a deep breath in, you allow this energy of the wind to cleanse you on every level, in every cell of your being. And you anchor into the deep remembrance that inner peace is within you, and you can access it at any time, regardless of what's happening in your external environment. So as you notice this storm around you, this wind, things being carried and blowing, bring your awareness to your heart space and notice this feeling of peace within you. And allow it to grow and to become bigger and bigger and bigger, expanding outwards until you feel it in every cell of your being, radiating from the inside out. And as this energy of love and peace radiates outward, the storm around you stops. The wind slows to a gentle breeze. And you have a deep inner knowing that everything that's happening is serving your highest good. It's happening for you. You remember how powerful you are, and that in any given moment, you have the power to shift your internal state, which then shifts your external world. And in this moment, as you've accessed the peace within, allow yourself to see things from a new perspective. From a bird's eye view, just observing it all. And when you're ready, you download this feeling of peace, gratitude, joy, and love. And you feel it wash over you from head to toe. And this feeling grows bigger and bigger, and it keeps growing. And you feel your consciousness being expanded outward. And just allow yourself to hold this energy, this joy and love and gratitude for a moment. Noticing if any discomfort arises, just taking a deep breath in. And when you're ready, I'm going to count down from 5 to 1. And when I do, you're going to go to your next destination. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you arrive, you see a beautiful guide there waiting in front of you. Maybe it's someone you know, maybe it's a loved one. Just observing. Maybe it's someone you don't know. And with your hand on your womb, you ask them a question and allow yourself to receive any guidance and wisdom and truth that comes through from the highest realms of light and love. And once you've received the answer and you've accessed the wisdom within, it's time to come back to your body on earth. And when I count down from 5 to 1, you're going to return to your body. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Traveling through any time, space, and dimensions needed to come back to your physical body on earth. Coming back into the country that you're in. Coming back into the state or county that you're in. Coming back into the city that you're in. Coming back into the room that you're in. And as you take a deep breath in, on the exhale, you fully re-enter your physical body, anchoring yourself back into this present moment. You feel the weight of your body against the bed or your feet against the floor. You start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Just slowly moving. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Just slowly coming back into this space. Taking a sip of water if you need it. And just remembering that peace and joy and gratitude and love that you felt throughout the journey, it's always available to you in every moment, even in the moments that don't feel like it. It's within you always, and it's yours to access. And a beautiful question that came through on the journey for some self-reflection, if you feel called, is this idea of in line with boundaries, but this feeling of where are you betraying yourself to meet the needs of others at your own expense? You know, like Sam mentioned earlier, that feeling of like, I should do this, I should do that. A lot of times that should is a very charged word, and it's something we feel obligated to do, or we feel like we'll please others, but it's at the expense of our own needs. And so I just want to remind you to really prioritize filling up your own cup before you try to do all the things for everyone else. Because if your cup is empty, then you don't have anything to give anyone else anyways. And that is where this feeling of resentment comes in, when we're helping everyone else and meeting everyone else's needs at the expense of our own. And that theme of, self-betrayal almost came through during the journey. So I just wanted to share that. And if anyone wants to share how they're feeling or anything on their heart, we have a few moments before I pass it back to Sam to wrap up. And there's no pressure at all to share. I'll just give it a few more moments and then we will close out. And I know Sam already said all this at the beginning, but please do drink a lot of water and, just really honor how you feel and honor your needs over this holiday season, but also just in general, but especially during the holidays, as it can amplify a lot of other energies happening. So if no one has anything to share, I will pass it over to Sam. And thank you all so much for being here and spending this time with us. It means the world, and we're so honored to hold this space for you. So thank you, and wishing you all such a beautiful holiday season.
Thanks so much, Stuart. And thank you all so much for being here. We're really excited that we got to try this out with all of you. And I'm sure that I know the team will be looking for some feedback on how these different topics have gone and ways we can make this better in the new year. And so we're really excited to continue these, change them up, add as we need to best support all of you. So we're looking forward to seeing you all in 2022. And again, we hope you have a very happy holiday and new year. And we will make sure this is recorded and that Amy's team can post this for you all. Thank you all so much. Again, have a very happy holiday and please reach out if any of you need anything. Have a great night.